This video is so important and can solve so many problems if we can just wrap our head around this concept. Giving feedback. It is difficult, it is challenging in the context of it being negative feedback. We'll talk about positive feedback in a different video, but delivering negative feedback is something that people try to avoid often. And yet it is so foundational to be able to create an environment and culture where people are inspired and motivated and want to collaborate and want to innovate. In this video, we're going to talk about two factors that are so essential to understand to be able to overcome this. You've really got to think about these concepts and internalize them because it will change how you engage and interact with your colleagues, with your family members, with your friends in any disagreement that you have. My name is Dr. Nina Ahuja. My mission is to empower you with tools and strategies to help you respond and not react, so that the way you lead in your personal lives and professional lives allows you to do so in a way that people around you feel valued, heard, respected. Let's talk about giving negative feedback. It's a situation that's often uncomfortable, and I've seen it happen so many times in so many organizations and have such a negative impact because not giving negative feedback to somebody that is really going to make a difference and make things better if they are able to receive it, it creates an undercurrent of mistrust. It creates the feeling as though nothing's going to change here. It's demoralizing. It's disheartening. I don't even know if I want to be involved with this initiative or this department or unit or organization, whatever level it is that that's extending to. The problem with giving negative feedback is two things. Number one, our system is primed to look for threat. So if there's disagreement or misalignment in the way that we think, what we believe in, what we perceive to be true, what we receive to be true, we are primed to go into defense mode and to go into the fight or flight response that we often talk about. If you go back to previous videos, I talk about the three sections in the brain in the simplistic manner, from the upper brain, which is thinking associated, the emotional brain, which is the midbrain, and then the reactive brain, which is mediated by the lower brain. You can go back to previous videos and look at that. But the bottom line application here is that because we're primed for protection and survival, when there's a misalignment, that is our default. With that, conflict aversion becomes a challenge. Why? Because we feel that conflict is a threat socially and to our sense of belonging. So that those are two really important considerations when it comes to our own satisfaction and sense of connection. As human beings, we want to connect. We want to be part of community. We want to be part of a group. We want to engage with other people. And so that if we're bringing forward concepts that are contrary and may set someone off or make them feel offended or upset with us, it threatens that social need for connection. And so as a result, what we do is we shy away from it because our threat detection center gets triggered. Our social center is also active, being very aware of how someone's reacting, usually primed to seek out the negative reactions, and therefore we shy away from it. And it becomes a way of dealing with the conflict or dealing with the situation without providing the negative feedback. As I mentioned before, though, not addressing an issue may serve as a short-term sense of pleasure or reward because you're not dealing with it. You don't have to deal with the uncomfortable feelings that come with conflict. But again, it perpetuates the problem. Sometimes it enables the problem, and it has a ripple effect where suddenly bad behaviors, as an example, that are not made accountable become accepted within the culture of that environment. And I have seen that time and time again. Different organizations, academic, clinical, nonprofit, mission-oriented. You see it everywhere. So that's why this is so important. So the conflict aversion piece is something that we need to manage, which is really about recognizing that you have that tendency to react in a way that is protective and is reactive, because that's what we're biologically primed to do, and bridging that with curiosity that I talked about in the receiving feedback or receiving criticism video, which you can look at to recap on that, to build on this content as well. So when we're looking at curiosity as the solution to the conflict aversion, it is a bridge that allows us to take our heightened state of apprehension of not wanting to offend somebody and saying, help me understand your perspective. What is the factor that you're considering that I may not know about? What is the information that you have that I may not know about? So that when you're giving feedback to the other person, by opening up questions and saying, what was behind that behavior? What was the circumstance in that behavior? What you do in that instance is the receiver is given the opportunity to present their point of view. And what that does is that removes the threat of attack, that what they're receiving in terms of your negative feedback is a criticism or a judgment or something else negative. Instead of that, what happens is the openness is received as an indicator that this is a safe environment to be able to share my ideas. So that curiosity piece, again, becomes a very key bridge to being able to connect with someone when you're giving them feedback that's can be received and will be received as negative if it is a negative piece of feedback. Now, there are ways for you to deliver your feedback so it doesn't land as negatively, or so that you can help regulate the other person as you're delivering the message. And that leads to the second key concept. So we've talked about conflict aversion. Now we're going to talk about social intelligence. When it comes to social intelligence, it's an element of what we refer to as emotional intelligence, which is the phrase that is referring to your ability of being aware of your own responses to various triggers, how you in turn respond, and then how you impact other people. Social intelligence is related to the same concept, except that you're taking social cues from other people, receiving them, and then being able to regulate your response and your interaction with that person in turn. So that it is a sense of emotional intelligence where you're being aware of your own reactions and being able to regulate your actions becomes a very essential part of that. However, the part we're focusing on in this instance is the social intelligence and understanding how the other person is responding, and then how you can modify and regulate and guide the interaction by being aware of how they're responding and then adjusting your responses accordingly. As an example, I've been in interactions where I've had to deliver negative feedback. You can get a sense of how someone's reacting. If someone's becoming upset or offended, there's an energy shift that happens. And if you're open to that perception, both of the energy, but also the tone that's being responded in, the pace that the person is using when they're responding, the body language that they're using, if they're crossing their arms, that's a defensive mechanism. It's a closing and protecting movement that is done often subconsciously that indicates the state of mind that that person is in. If you're able to observe and receive that input that you're getting or the feedback that you're getting based on what you're saying, you can then understand that, okay, this person is no longer in the upper part of the brain where they're thinking and we're having conversation and we're intellectually engaging. Something in them has been triggered in the emotional centers of the brain, which is in the midbrain, and then it's eliciting a response in their body because they're heightened and they're going into protection mode. If you can identify that, one of the key things that is revealed is the fact that the person is not feeling safe in that interaction. So that immediately becomes a trigger for you to say and address that situation by either asking questions or outright saying, I'm sensing that this is being received in a way that you may be feeling that I'm attacking you or that I'm judging you. I'm really not doing that. I'm just sharing with you what I'm receiving or what feedback I'm getting from other people in terms of what they're receiving. And I'm delivering this to you because I want to understand your understanding of that particular circumstance, interaction, decision, whatever that may be. So that if you open up the door to engagement, to understanding, and you deliver that olive branch or you extend that olive branch to someone when you're sensing that that person's not feeling safe, that helps lessen the negative impact or the trigger that the person may be feeling as you're delivering the feedback that is not what they may be expecting. It may be going against what they believe. It's basically a disagreeing circumstance or interaction where you're able to reassure the person that, look, I'm not judging you or blaming you or doing anything like that. I just really want to understand so that I have all the information when I then manage the interactions or conversations that I have in follow up to this for people who've asked me to address this with you. That ability to be able to connect with another person and open the door and remove that sense of judgment with a truly authentic, genuine curiosity, though, and that's the key. You need to be genuine about wanting to understand the other person's perspective. That helps build bridges. What that also does is by asking questions, you're helping to pull the other person out of the emotional center of the brain that is currently triggering protection and bringing them to a place of logic and thinking. So it's increasing the distance between the emotional protective response up to a thinking logic response where you can then engage one another and have dialogue where curiosity again is building a bridge. In order to combat conflict aversion, really be aware of what you're doing in terms of avoiding situations, recognizing that that's actually going to worsen the circumstance for yourself and everybody around you, especially in a leadership position where everybody is relying on you, and understand that there are opportunities to bridge the conflict and aversion that you have within yourself by reframing the conversation as an opportunity to learn more about the other person. So you're pausing in that moment. It's the 3 R's I talk about all the time. You're pausing and reflecting in that moment, recognizing you're feeling yourself go inward. You're wanting to avoid that conversation, reframing it as this is an opportunity for learning, and then responding with questions and curiosity that opens the door for a safe environment for the other person to interact. And then watching for social cues in terms of how the other person is responding, recognizing that we're wired biologically and by evolution to go to protection mode so that you can expect that if you say something to somebody that is something that they don't want to hear or that they don't expect or that is contrary to their opinion, that they're probably going to go into protection mode. If you know that already, you can set the stage and the circumstance to allow them the opportunity to relax a little bit. Slow your pace. Don't be rude in your tone. Be conversational, be engaging, be empathetic, be warm, and be curious. To summarize, then, conflict aversion is a natural tendency. It is actually a protective mechanism that we have within ourselves that is a biological default in order to keep ourselves safe. Social awareness and social intelligence is the ability to recognize those features that are coming out in other people so that when we're giving feedback that's negative, we can learn to balance their reactions and how they're receiving our messages by being able to be aware and observant of the cues that they're giving us. Now, as I talked about in the video on receiving feedback, which you can watch, that allows you to understand the dynamics that are going on in these interactions and how best to manage them so that you go ahead and have them. You can then come up with action plans, working together collaboratively, and then create a situation that is helpful to the other person as well as to yourself in making those changes that can create a culture that solves the issue and ripples out to everyone else around them. If you are liking this content, please like and subscribe. Share it with other people who you feel may benefit. Tells the platform that this is valuable content. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you for taking the time to spend with me today.